A food allergy diagnosis changes your life. It affects you, your family, your education, your career, your everything. That being said, as with all adversity in life, you have choices on how you can handle it. Some people choose to raise their hands, stand up, and get involved as advocates. They look food allergy right in the face and say, "I've got this." And they focus their energy on empowering others to feel the same way. These food allergy warriors range in age and background, but have one thing in common. They turned their food allergy story into action. Now I'm going to shine a light on them to inspire you to join the fight against food allergies. This is Take Action with Hillary Carter. Hi, I'm Hillary Carter. I'm a food allergy mom, advocate, and proud member of FAIR's Board of Governors. Today, I'm really excited. We're actually going across the pond. We're going to talk to Lindiwe Lewis. She, as she characterizes herself, is a woman with severe allergies, joyfully eating her way through life. She's the co-host of the Deserted podcast and the blogger at the Allergy Table blog and community. She's a spoken international ambassador and, in my personal opinion, the food allergy Instagram Reels queen. Lindy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my goodness, it's such a pleasure and an honor. I'm just really excited to chat to you and talk about food allergies. I'm excited.
All things food allergies. And here's what's super impressive is that you are a young woman, and I'm rattling off this resume. I know I didn't even capture all of it, but it's amazing what you have already accomplished in your life and the work that you're doing for the food allergy community. So we're going to get into all of that, all things food allergy. But first, just tell me a little bit about Lindy. Tell me a little bit about your background, your life growing up, anything you want to share with us.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in London, England, and I immedately started traveling. My mom was a traveler. Her work took her places. So I've been traveling since I was 3 months old, but I developed food allergies when I was 6 months. So it's always been a thing for me. I've just traveled and had food allergies. So I was diagnosed with allergies when I was 6 months old. It was to nuts, lentils, and sesame and egg. And I've done multiple food challenges throughout my life. So some of them have come, some of them have gone. But I'm 28 now, and it's only been within the last few years that I have advocated openly with food allergies. And that's also mainly because growing up, it was a very different time than it is now. And I didn't understand that there were others like me. I knew that there were people who had allergies, mainly to nuts, I assumed, but I never came across any of them. I never realized that the only stories I've ever heard was when someone either died or, had a near miss. I never heard of any positive food allergy stories growing up. So I genuinely thought I was the only one. And that mainly stopped me from showing my allergies because I was afraid that because I was different, I would be judged. So within the last few years with Instagram and then starting my blog, and then now especially during this pandemic, with lots more people writing blogs, lots more people having allergy Instagrams, you can see this massive community all around the world. And that's mainly where I derive my confidence from, is because I'm not only doing it for me anymore, I'm doing it for everybody that I talk to every single day. And it makes me more excited to go out there and talk about allergies, because I'm not just doing it for myself anymore. The reason I started the Allergy Table is because when I was a child, I was put on the Allergy Table all my life, but because there were no other people with allergies, I was the only one. And so my whole mission with the blog and, you know, with anything that I do on Instagram or anything I do outside of the work in the real world is mainly just to say you're not alone, because I was alone, felt like I was alone for so long with this. And it's really important to me that I don't feel alone anymore, and that other people can come up and go, I'm not alone, so they don't get to repeat what I went through.
That's such an amazing story. And I know that I feel similarly, and so many people that I've talked to in this community who are really actively advocates all get involved because they want to feel a part of the greater whole, because they want to be a part of the community and not be alone. And so they can feel kind of a little bit in control of their lives with this, right? So I love hearing that from your standpoint. I actually didn't know that the allergy table was because you sat at the allergy table growing up, and that as a parent makes me upset. How was that? So there wasn't anybody in your school, it was just you?
Yeah, so it was mainly in primary school. I talk to my mom about this a lot now that I'm properly advocating, but I never really talked to her about what she went through when I was a kid and like what struggles she came up across, because I think she did a really, really good job of letting me live a normal life as a child and protected me from the stuff that people were saying and the things that she was going through to make sure I was protected. And so I never felt like there was anything different when I was a child. It was only when I got into a teenage and I had to do it on my own that I realized that there were issues that I had to come across. But so looking back at it now, I feel upset that that happened, and it was really frustrating. And I went through my whole life sort of like thinking food was an isolated event, not thinking that food is to be shared, especially for somebody that has allergies. And I still have that today. I prefer eating alone than I do with other people, just because it's just what I've been conditioned to feel like. And I'm starting to really try and have more of a socializing part of food, but it took me a long time to realize that was the reason. And what they were doing was protecting me. They had no idea about allergies. They had no idea about like what the severity was, like if I had come into contact with it on my hands, or because we didn't know. It took me a few years until I knew that I wasn't airborne. Like we didn't know that it was how serious it was back then. So we just knew that I had anaphylaxis and I went into shock sometimes. So we just knew like keep her away from those ingredients. So what they were doing was protecting me, but unfortunately it wasn't protecting me, it was isolating me. Instead of saying, hey, let's not eat this and let's have Lindy come in to this scenario, it was more, we're gonna eat this and Lindy just has to go out. And it yeah, so like it's also very strange for me when I have friends now who want to include me and are making more of an effort to do it and deciding like, oh, I'm not gonna have nuts at this party, we'll have pretzels. And I get, sometimes it's a weird thing because I just don't realize that that's possible, that people can do that. And it's so lovely when kids are growing up now and that happens to them. And I'm like, thank God, because I don't want anyone to feel that way about the way that I felt then. But I know that they were doing it out of protection and out of making sure that like I didn't die. So I know it wasn't a malicious thing, but what I want to get across as well as what I do is that isolation is never an option. It's just never an option. And so whether you're trying to keep someone safe or not, making them feel isolated and making them feel like they are other is not okay, no matter what age you are. So like that's mainly like what drives me, is because it can be, protection can kind of, it depends on how you do it, but it can be an isolation thing, and I don't want anyone to think that that's how to protect people, because it's not.
All of that was so well spoken, and it's so mature and so rational. And I just love hearing your perspective. And I agree. I think, as you were saying, things are so much different now than they were when you were going through elementary school. I always talk about those who came before me and like how we see the shift every like 5 or 10 years, how much changes in the food allergy landscape. And I think people were probably trying their best to keep you safe and not knowing what else to do. And we've seen it all across schools here in the United States as well. But now we know better, right? So anybody who's watching this who is an educator or runs a daycare or a school, like there needs to be other options. And the word that I love is inclusive. What I'm always trying to do is make sure my kids are safe, but included. And like you said, there's so many ways to make sure food allergy people are included. The other day at my kid's school, I got a last minute warning that they were going to count candy for a math lesson. Why do we need candy in the classroom for a math lesson? Like use buttons, use pennies, use anything else. So we have to just get into the mindset of thinking a little bit ahead and being prepared. And I love that you are having your social network, your friends wanting to make changes to make sure you're included. And it's amazing how much it shocks us as food allergy families when it happens. We're so pleasantly surprised, but it really isn't that hard. So again, a tip for those at home, ask someone what they're allergic to and offer to just not serve it at whatever's happening. That's going to go such a long way, right?
I love that idea, like to be inclusive. And the thing is, what I've realized is that it's not, people don't like change, like anyone, like it's really uncomfortable. And so we do things the way it's meant, the way it is, you know what I mean? Like people don't know how to shift what's already been. And so that's why we have words like alternative and, it's like other, like the foods are other for us, but actually for us, it's the normal. And I think people don't like the shift in changing what they've done for years. And so now with food allergies, it's like they don't like the fact that like nuts cannot be served on the plane. They don't like the fact that like they can't give out chocolate for a birthday party at school. Like it feels so jarring to them. And it's not about what you don't have. It's the fact that everybody should have the same. And that's what's so important, is like, this isn't a choice. And we just want to make sure that everybody feels like they have options and feel safe, because we should all feel safe in the world. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable at first, but it's uncomfortable for all of us, whether we're diagnosed or not. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel right. We shouldn't have to fear food. We shouldn't have to live a limited life. So make it better, make sure that like you don't put candy in a math classroom because it's not necessary, and choose something else. Just be aware and choose something else, because otherwise you're isolating and excluding a child, and that's not okay.
Absolutely. And you just said the word shift, which reminded me, one of my favorite things that I saw on your website is that you are shifting the narrative from suffering to resilience. And resilience to me is something that I always say is a silver lining of food allergy. I think my kids are so resilient because of what they've had to deal with. And clearly, talking to you, we know that you are too. And this is very much what you're talking about, just changing the dynamic. Tell me a little bit about how you came up with that as sort of the theme for your website.
Yeah, well, actually, that was last year when I did a campaign, which has been in the back of my mind for so long. And it was the Behind the Allergy Campaign. And it was mainly just because I just get so frustrated because people, the minute I tell someone I have an allergy, I feel like I'm no longer a person. I am an allergy. And they don't see me as a person. They see me as an annoyance or a nuisance. And that's how I felt growing up. And so I wanted to show people that like I have so many other things than my allergies. Not that my allergies are not a massive part of who I am, because I've had them for my whole life. Like I don't know life without my food allergies. But I am obsessed with penguins. I love going for walks. I like talking to my friends. I like going to the gym. Like there are so many more things to me. And allergies are just one of those things. And so that was the main part. And through thinking about that and through listening to other people, I realized that I hated the word suffering, because my life is not a suffer. Like, I don't suffer through life because I have food allergies. And I look at packets and it says not suitable for allergy sufferers. And I just go, but I'm not suffering. Like, that word does not, and for me, words are like words are really important to me. I really care about the words that I use daily in my life, because I think that really does like paint your life, is the words that you use in your mind or when you're speaking. And I just knew that I was like, for me, I don't suffer. There are some people, and I've talked to others, that say that they do suffer. And I completely get that. And I think you should use that word if you feel like it resonates for you. But I don't suffer. And so I changed suffering to reactor. And I'm not the only one that did that. I'm not the first one that did that, but I changed it that I react. I don't suffer, I react to food allergies. And then I was like, okay, I react, but what happens after I react? I bounce back. When I react, I bounce back. When I react, I bounce back. Because that's just all you have to do, you know? And I mean, this isn't about allergies, but I had a stroke like 4 years ago. And I bounced back very fast, but I didn't recover mentally, but I was resilient in trying to keep going, keep pushing, keep finding positivity, keep finding that silver lining through my whole journey. Because what else do you do? When something happens, you either, like, I don't know, lie on the bed, or you just get up and go. You know, like, what do? There's two options. You give up, or you go forward. There's nothing else. And so I gave up for a minute, you know, it was a lot.
You're always allowed to take a pause. You can take a pause.
Exactly. And I've had moments, I've talked about this before, where, you know, with allergies, I've cried on my bed going, why me? This is not fair. It's not okay. Like, why don't I get to have what they have? Why don't I get to be normal? Why don't, you know, I have those things. But I got up, I kept going, I'm resilient, and it pushes me through. But the thing is, if I didn't have those things, those like crazy life-altering, life-changing things that happened to me, I wouldn't be so resilient in all the other things in my life. I wouldn't be able to cope with the smaller things, because I know that I can get through these massive changes, that I am so resilient in anything. Like, anytime that something happens to me that I now think is minor, but I would have thought it was big if it had happened a few years ago, you know? So for me, resilience is so key. And I really want to shift again. I really want to shift the mindset that we have as like humans, that, you know, change it to the positive side of it. Because negative and positive, when you believe those two, both of them are true, whatever you believe. If I think of my allergies as super negative and think this is not fair and why me, it's true. It's true that allergies are negative. But if I think, okay, well, what did I get out of having allergies? Like, what has my life brought me because I had allergies? I got, you know, I can say no to things a lot more because I have allergies. I say, no, I have allergies, I don't want to eat that. You know, I have so many things. And that's one of the positives that I have from it, you know? And so if the more positive things that you list, the negative ones don't even seem to like come into play. And so, yeah, so for me, like shifting the mindset and deciding, hey, allergies make me resilient. Allergies make me a reactor, not a sufferer. Allergies make me, you know, have a really good gut sense in the world. Like, you know, allergies make me these things. I don't even think about the negative parts that allergies have. And, you know, it's not saying that it's all sunshine and rainbows. It's daily work with me. You know, still have days where I think, oh God, I wish, like, you know, reading the back of the packets and you're like, oh, this is exciting. And it says may contain, and you're like, you get deflated. You know what I mean? Like, it's not fun. It's not a fun thing. And it's hard to be positive in those moments. But then I go, well, did I need it though? Did I have to have it? Like, you just kind of change. changing that mindset is something that is a daily process, but it actually makes your life so much better and so much happier. And you don't feel so negative in the situation that you're in, because everybody is dealing with something. Everybody is dealing with some negative emotion and some negative feeling. And changing it to a positive is just helping you. It's not changing that the circumstances positive, it's just changing it for you, your reaction, in order for the outcome to be positive.
All of that is so right, first of all. And second of all, the fact that you know this at your age is amazing. I've always been a positive person and a grateful person and a silver linings person, a glass half full person. But when my kids were diagnosed and we were really trying to wrap our heads around this whole thing, you know, there were a lot of years that we were sort of scared and just trying to figure it out and feeling really overwhelmed. And I, you know, had to go through the process of retraining my brain that I've got this and that we're going to be fine and that this is positive and, you know, that everybody has something. And it was really empowering to know that the way you talk to your brain is how you see things. And I always try to explain that to people because it sounds kind of crazy. And I'm trying to teach this to my kids who are 8 and 10. They're like, what? But it's so true. And so if you can go through each day with gratitudes and, you know, list what you're happy about and list the silver linings and list all the things you can do, it makes such a huge difference on how you perceive not only food allergies, but your life. It's a lesson for everyone, really. So thank you for sharing your amazing wisdom. And I want to say, you have so much content on your website and on your Instagram where you talk about all this. So everybody should definitely go check it out. We'll list where they can find you at the end, but it's all there. And I love that you shouted out Glennon Doyle, who is one of my all-time favorites of all things. And you mentioned, you know, that I've got this and we can do hard things, such amazing feedback. And I feel like you really hit it, but that's just such a great resource and such a good tip if anybody's looking for work like this where they want to read about it. But I want to pivot just a little bit because you're doing so many amazing things. I want to make sure we get to them. I would love for you to share with everyone what you're doing with Allergy Mom with a Mission with the 1-2-3 Pantry. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's really exciting. I'm gonna like hold my hands up, and in all of my years of having food allergies, I never even thought of somebody who couldn't afford it. And that is my own privilege. And I had to realize that when I first learned of the Food Equality Initiative. I was like, I read a lot about it. I went to all the like webinars and I just listened and absorbed it. But I didn't realize that like, like in my mind, I thought the people who needed to go to a food bank or go to a pantry, they didn't have allergies. Like I just didn't think that way. And a lot of people have been messaging me saying that they felt that too. They thought that, you know, it didn't even come across. And I did this reel about like how food allergy products are actually really expensive. And I understand why they're expensive. It costs a lot to make them, and that sucks. Like it shouldn't have to be costing so much to make the products or you know, the testing that they have to do and all that in order, and it's different to somebody else's products, right? It's not fair. But we pay for it because we want to treat ourselves, we want to eat the foods that everybody else eats and to be safe, and we pay for the, you know, dedicated factories, and we pay for that. But what happens with someone who can't afford food in general and has a child who just got diagnosed with allergies, or a person who's an older adult who just got diagnosed with allergies and is suffering even to pay their rent? Do you know what I mean? Like what happens then? And I didn't even think about that because I've always been able to afford it. And so when Michelle messaged me and be like, we should do something, like, you know, we should do a campaign together, and we were just talking, and then suddenly it just like, we both just like clicked, and it was to do with that. And it's so important because we don't have, well, I don't even know a food equality initiative here, you know, so I've even tried to look at it and people just aren't really responding to it. And it's upsetting, you know, because especially if I don't think about it, I'm sure nobody else is thinking about it either. And so, yeah, this is just like so important. So we just wanted to make it like fun and make it engaging and also just like easy, you know, like so that it's not, somebody doesn't have to go out of their way. It's just easy for them. And so we came up with this 1-2-3 pantry, and it was one person who's like just me or you, just one person buying 2 or more allergy friendly products, donating them to a food bank or a pantry, and then tagging 3 friends. And then the 3 friends do it again and tag 3 friends, and it just keeps going. And then we were doing it for the month of April, and I just messaged her just going, why are we doing it for 1 month? Like, we should be doing it all year. Like, people should be able to do it all year. And, you know, sometimes financially, some people who can afford it can't afford to buy it for another person. So it's like all year, it means that they're able to budget it in, and they could do it once a month, or they could do it a few times a year or something like that, just to allow it to have, everybody can do it. And it's different in America. You guys have pantries and food banks really more accessible than we do, but we have in-store pantries, donation boxes. So when we buy a product towards the end, the exit, you can put it in the little thing. And I did one today. And the thing is, I looked in what there was already in there, and there was nothing for anything. Like, there was no free from, there was nothing for us. And I thought, I'm so glad that we are doing this. So like my 3 products that I put in there, somebody that they're going to take it, somebody will need that. And I'm so happy that I was able to provide that for somebody. And it's so easy because you can just put 1 or 2 in your food shop and then put it at the end of when you're exiting. And it's so easy, you know, and then you tag 3 more people to do it as well. So it's like, it's simple, but you don't even know how much it would impact a family. And for me, I'm trying to buy foods that are easy. So less like treats and sugary stuff, and just more like breads, because if it's gluten-free, dairy-free, like egg-free, breads are really hard to find and expensive. So just things like that is so simple to you, and you wouldn't even think about buying bread, but it's not so simple to other people. Yeah, and so I love it. Thank you for asking me to share that, because I'm just really happy that we're putting more awareness onto it. And some people have said to me, message me saying, I do that. I'm like, do it and tag people so that other people can do it. It's not to say that you're showing people how good you are or something like that. It's so that other people think, oh, I didn't even think about that. Because if they had shared it a year ago that they were doing it, I would have done it, because I would have been like, oh, I didn't even realize that we could do it. So I think it's just sharing and having more awareness of the people who can't get the products that we are so privileged to put in our basket.
It's an amazing campaign, and there's so many things that are interesting about this. First of all, I agree with you. Doing anything like this, you should absolutely post and tag what you're doing, because that's the joy of social media, is that we sort of create movements, right? And things snowball. So I love the tag 3 friends, and they go and do it. It's a really genius, way to structure this. I also am a little bit jealous that where you are, you guys can just buy extra food and there's a place at the grocery store to put it. So, hey, United States supermarkets, let's work on that, because that is a great, easy solution. And maybe all of the advocates that might be watching in the US, maybe that's something we can work on in the next year, is sort of making that tie between the pantries and the grocery stores. So there's not that extra step where people have to then go drop it off. And I know that this is such an important issue, and FAIR is really spending a lot of time on it, which is wonderful, and trying to figure out how to get the free from food into the pantry, and then make sure that those people who need it, that it's connected, right? So that's another way. If you're looking to get involved in advocacy, call your local food bank, do this amazing 1-2-3 pantry concept, this campaign, see if you can sort of create a little bit of momentum in your own town, because it's so important. So thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for sharing. I want to talk about your podcast. Tell me all about that, how it came to be, what you're working on.
Yeah, so I started this with Grace, who is the account Grace Friendly. We linked up on Instagram last year, and she wrote a blog for me, and so we started talking, and we just ended up having like this really good friendship that we were talking about. And I did like some Zoom events when the lockdown was like in its prime, and I really loved them, but it was hard connecting and things like that. And we were talking about having a different kind of event and maybe like a party instead of an event. Like, you know, we were just trying to bounce ideas. And then we just thought, what if we just like record it when we're chatting? And we're like, oh, should we do a podcast? And then we're thinking about like, what podcast can we do? We both love food and we have allergies, and we're still a foodie and we're obsessed with food, like you said at the beginning. And so we're just kind of talking about that. And we both love podcasts and we listen to so many of them. And the biggest podcast that we love is one here in the UK, which is Desert Island Discs. And it just talks about what music would you bring to a desert island if you were alone. And we thought like, we would bring food, we wouldn't bring music. And so we just thought, oh, that would be such a good podcast to do, is to talk about food. And especially sometimes in the food allergy community, food is somewhat like fear mongering, and people are afraid of food, certain foods especially. And I think I've never had food fear. It's never been something it's never been in my history. It's kind of been the opposite. I've been obsessed and I just love food. But I think we all have we zone in on food, I think. And I think about food a lot more than some people. I think based on my food allergies, and I have to think about food and where I'm going to eat next and things like that. So we just love food and we talk about food all the time. So we thought we'll do a podcast on it. And at the beginning, we just kind of wanted to do a podcast just talking about food to people. And then we realized that our food allergies are our life. We can't talk about food without talking about food allergies, because that's how we relate to food, is our food allergy. So even if we got somebody who came on the podcast that didn't have any food allergies, we still talked about it because that's how we related to it. So if someone says like, oh, my favorite dish that I'll take to the island is a margarita pizza, well, Grace is allergic to gluten and dairy, so she doesn't understand that. And for me, like if somebody says that I'm going to take, you know, a pecan pie, I can't understand that because I am allergic to nuts. So it's just kind of like, that's how we related. And it's been so much fun. We're just going to finish up season 1 by the end of June, July. And we've just had so many people talk about food. We've had my best friend who talks about inclusion and, you know, really, she's like the only person I ever let cook for me. That's my friend. And it was just, you know, it was just such a beautiful thing talking to her really about food allergies, and how she talks about how I've grown from when she first met me till now, and how much more I trust people. And that's so important as well. And so, yeah, we're having so much fun, and talking about food for an hour is just like my dream. And yeah, we're having so much fun, and we're going to have a lot of guests. Our next guest is Leah and Rachel from Because I Said So. And yeah, I'm just super excited to like have people listen to it. And I think we've kind of really hit our stride, and it's our first season. So yeah, it's been really fun. And so now we're really kind of talking more about food allergies and making people more aware. And I think we can use that platform to make people more aware of the positive side of food and food allergies.
Absolutely. And congratulations. It's amazing what you're doing. I do think there were a lot of podcasts born out of the pandemic, and we're all better for it. The more smart content there is, the better we all are. Tell everybody again the name of your podcast and where they can find it.
Yeah, so it's called Deserted, but with 2 S's, so like dessert. And then it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere. It's like the main places that you're going to find podcasts, you'll find it.
Terrific. Now, I am, again, so impressed with all of the amazing work you're doing, all of this advocacy. And as you know, the show is called Take Action. So not only are we highlighting impressive, wonderful people like you, but we also want to inspire the audience at home to get involved, to take action in their own special way. So, do you have any advice that you would like to share with anybody watching at home for how they might get involved in advocacy, whether it's in a small way or a large way? Any tips you might want to share?
Yeah, I've talked about this quite a few times, about advocacy and like what type of advocacy you want, kind of thing. And I wrote a blog post about how to be an advocate in your daily real life. And then me and Amanda Orlando, who is Everyday Allergen Free, we did a clubhouse room on what is advocacy. And kind of for me, advocacy is starting small. It really is, because I think that massive immediate change, like we've seen, you know, in all of like the legislation that's happening in the US and things like that, the big systemic advocacy is where like massive change gets hit, but it takes years. It can take years, right? And so it's really hard to make this massive change quickly. So coming down to like the grassroots and coming down to you as a person, like what can you do today in this moment? What can you do after watching this video? What can you do in order? And so like the first thing for me is just, which I was terrible at, is telling people who you're close to how to use your EpiPen or how to use your auto injector. I'm awful at that. I genuinely, like, loads of my friends are always telling me, like, I don't even know how to use it. You should tell me how to use it. And it's so small, but it's so important, because the only times I've used it on myself, and it was terrifying. And so you should be able to use it on yourself, but telling people around you, especially the people who are really close to you, or if you're going to an event when we can, and, you know, tell somebody at the event, if you're going alone, how to use it, just in case something happens, somebody at the event will be able to help you. Like, you know, that's such a small little thing, but it's actually so important, and it will also make people aware about it in the future. So if they're not with you and somebody is having a reaction and no one knows how to use an auto injector, they know how. And so it just increases the awareness and increases just allowing people to know how. And there's so many people who have allergies now that they're going to come across somebody out there in the world, and to have that awareness is just so important. And so like that's one small big thing for me. And then, you know, I don't know, like just so many little things, like asking someone not to eat nuts, you know, even if you don't have allergies. Asking, like, especially like my mom sometimes will say, you shouldn't really be eating nuts on the bus because there's somebody that could have an allergy and they could go into an attack, you know. So it's a small thing if you don't even have allergies to be able to do. And it is scary. Like I've done it and my heart's been beating out my chest, and I'm terrified of like what they will say. But it's so important as well for your safety and for other people's safety as well. You know, there are some people who have airborne allergies, like they need to be safe too. And just increasing the awareness. Every time you mention allergies, you're increasing the awareness. Anytime you like correct people on what they say about allergies, you're increasing awareness. And it's so important, because I've come across so many people that say such random things about allergies, and sometimes I don't talk, but when I do, it's like they're very confused, like oh I didn't know that. And it's like that's so helpful for anyone else that they come across. And like, you know, then it releases the stigma attached to it. And so those small little things that you can do just yourself is great. And then if you want to make those massive changes and make those things where like your world will change, then sign up to things like FAIR, sign up to, if you're in the UK, sign up to Anaphylaxis Campaign, like sign up to be a member, get the newsletters, read about it and learn about what's happening. Go on Instagram, DM people like me going, hey, I want to help do something, like I want to talk about this more, you know. Immerse yourself, because it took me 3 years to really immerse myself in the online community. And now I don't even like, it's such a different world that I'm living in. So yeah, definitely immerse yourself, because it's great to have that community and to feel so supported and to know that what you're doing matters. So those are small little things, big little things, and it will change your life, and it will change my life. What you do will change my life, and what I do will change yours.
I love it. There's so many amazing tidbits there and so much wisdom. And I know that you inspired so many people. So thank you so much for everything you shared today. And again, for all the work you are doing. It's so important. I'm going to ask you one last question before we sign off. What's next? I mean, you've done so much already. What are you excited about for the rest of this year? What are you working on that we should look out for?
Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm at the beginning of what I want to do. Like, this is like an honor to like even be talking to you. And the main thing for me in 2021 was to do stuff offline, like to actually do the work offline, because sometimes it can feel a little bit like a sounding board, like I say things and everyone's like, yes, I agree, because they feel the same way. And that's so good. And that makes you feel so confident. But I want to use that confidence to get out there and to actually make waves, out there in the real world, like you're doing, like so many people are doing. And I feel like I'm in that little bubble, and I want to get out of that bubble. I want to just like burst the bubble. So I just want to take what I've learned and take the confidence that I've gained from being in this community and like push boundaries with people. I'm talking to the gym that I'm at, being like, we shouldn't be having food on the gym floor, because yes, maybe one day it's bananas, but the other day it was nuts. Like, we shouldn't be having food on the gym floor, things like that, because people don't even think about it. And hopefully, like I've got, just talking to loads of people. I really want to help with schools. Like, I just want to do whatever I can do. And so like, I want to be spread thin, and I just want to like give everything that I can. I spent years thinking that I shouldn't use my voice because I wasn't an expert. And then I realized that I have 28 years experience. So I think I deserve to say how I feel and deserve to help people and help in the way that I can. I have that experience, and I want to help in the way that I can. The only way that I can is to share my story and share others. And that's what I do on my blog, and that's what I do on Instagram. And so I want to do that here in the real world.
In the real world. I know it's so hard, like the real world versus the online world, but they're sort of the same, but they're sort of not. And what you're saying is so true. I think a lot of us in this world feel like that. We know we're all talking to each other, and we know that our community is incredibly strong and well educated and empowered, and we're in it, right? But we want everyone else to know. We want to make food allergy famous. I think we're all working on that. So every conversation that we have, every moment we educate is so important. So I can't wait to see. Again, you're so young. It's just amazing what you've accomplished. You're a bright star, and I can't wait to see where you go from here. Can't wait to keep in touch. I loved every minute of talking with you today. I know we talked about your podcast, but make sure and tell me so we can share with everyone where else to find your website and your social media handles.
Yeah, so Instagram is the.allergy table, and my blog is theallergytable.org, but I am switching it in June, but I'll let you know the actual title. But yeah, and then that's kind of like where I am online. I do a lot of content of like reels. I try to like bring the humor in everything that I do, because I am somebody that wants to shine a positive light on this condition, and it can be serious, but I think I've been triggered by some allergic posts sometimes, and I just want to bring the joy of like what's funny about life kind of thing. And so so like please message me. I'm always talking to people, and I really care about like having a connection with people. I've met so many amazing friends on there, actual friends, and it's just it's been such a warm welcome even though I've been on it for 5 years. It's been just such a nice, welcome. And so, yeah, my Instagram and blog are like the main thing. And then obviously my podcast, and yeah, and there's more to come. I swear there's more to come.
Oh my goodness, there's already so much. So you are killing it, which is awesome. And like I said at the very beginning, I sort of consider you my personal queen of food allergy reels. You do an amazing job of entertaining content and funny content and super spot on content. And so congratulations. It's all really great to see and to watch. So thank you so much. And as you also mentioned, FAIR is an amazing resource. So just in case you don't know, it's foodallergy.org, and you can find that on all social media at Food Allergy. If you're watching this, you've probably found the Living Teal channel, but there's so much amazing content on YouTube on that channel, so check it out. And if you want to follow along with me, my website is Hillary Tolcarter, and my Instagram and all social media is at Hillary Tolcarter. Lindy, I loved chatting with you. Thank you for chatting with me from far away. We're now an international show, so I feel cool. I hope you feel cool. And I just loved every minute of it. So thank you for sharing your story and your tips with me today.
Thank you so much. It's honestly such an honor. So thank you.
Thanks. And everybody at home, thanks for watching. I hope you're inspired to take action.